Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Corey, and I'm on the channel. I'm going to start doing a daily quote. I'm going to try to keep up with it. This is a quote that I've seen posted on social media a lot. It and if you know anything about social media, people disagree. Man, do they ever disagree? And you know, I understand that this quote doesn't for the best way to put this so I don't want to sound like a pretentious douchebag. For the people who don't practice stoicism and for the beginners who started practicing stoicism, this particular quote may seem like a lie. Now, it's important to note one. I think in this copy of Letters from a Stoic that I have, there's an entry in the beginning from Donald Robertson. It's important to remember that Seneca, as much as he had his text and his books have wisdom behind them, Seneca did not exactly live a stoic life. When you compare him to such like Cato the Younger and Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, he was very much a controversial figure at his time, serving under the Emperor Nero, and really just being not the best, not who you would picture as a Stoic. If anything, you could argue that he was a little bit like Cicero in that manner. Cicero learned under a lot of Stoics, but he didn't classify himself as a Stoic, whereas Seneca, he classified himself as a Stoic, and you might be able to chalk up most of Seneca's faults to trying to survive the turbulent times that were the Roman Empire. But this quote in particular, people who get it, they see it on their news feed, they see it, and they kind of forget, or they don't forget, they don't realize what he's talking about in this situation. Now, obviously, we do suffer. I mean, everybody suffers in some way. I think the best way to say it, everybody suffers. Not everybody cries about it. So, it's from this particular quote is from a excerpt in one of his letters uh, to Lucilius. Matter of fact, it's which one is it? It is on groundless fears. Okay, so here's where it said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That quote is pulled from a chapter or a paragraph in Letters from a Stoic. There are more things, Lucilius, likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. I am not speaking with you in the Stoic strain, but in a milder style, for it is our Stoic fashion to speak of all those things which provoke cries and groans as unimportant and beneath notice. But you and I must drop such great-sounding words, although, heaven knows, they are true enough. What I advise you to do is not to be unhappy before the crisis comes, since it may be that the dangers before which you paled as if they were threatening you will never come upon you. They certainly have not yet come. So we can see by that what he's talking about is this idea of, I have this test coming up. What if I fail? Well, you're only suffering that failure in your head. You're not suffering it in reality because it hasn't come through yet. It's a baseless fear. It's one that you could easily stomp out. Well, not easily, but you could stomp out. And, we we do suffer more in our imagination than in reality. In our anticipation of what's to come, we suffer. Having to go talk to the principal, having to go talk to your boss, whoever it may be, you suffer more in thinking about the situation, thinking about what's to come, than you actually do when you face the situation. How many times have you had anxiety about a workplace meeting or an interview or a conversation with your parents about something you shouldn't have done but you did do, and once you got it off your chest, it felt better. Another prime example of this is going on that roller coaster, any roller coaster. You're walking up to it, it looks huge and daunting, and there's not a whole lot you can do, but then you get up to it and you ride it, and bam, you're good to go. You're not you're not worried anymore because you got the worst part of it behind you, the anticipation. So that is what Seneca is referring to when he talks about this little quote here. And I think too often people mistake that, saying, well, no, I do suffer in reality. I have back pain, or, I went through a bad divorce, or, I just got out of whatever it may have been. Whatever. Yeah, we all suffer. Okay. It's not about whether or not you suffer, it's whether or not you let that suffering affect you. But what Seneca's talking about is, like I said, it's that anticipation, that, the fear of what's yet to come. Yeah, it's a huge deal. This business meeting could mean, the end of your company, but it could also be the best thing to ever happen to your company. Or, the breakup that you're dreading going through could be the best thing to ever happen to you. It's all about how you look at it, how you can choose to suffer all the way through, or you can say, you know what, no, I'm not going to suffer. That is what Seneca's talking about, and I think that's what the takeaway needs to be. And it is important to remember that when reading these texts, you do have different, like Epictetus, you can really feel that he meant what he was saying, and Marcus, you could tell that he was truly trying to, he was trying to, remind himself and make himself more resilient. Whereas Seneca, you get this air of hypocrisy in his writing, and it's, in the beginning, when I first found out about who Seneca was, it was hard to read his texts, but because it just felt like reading, a hypocrite's text. But there's still wisdom in there, and even though your later Stoics, your Epictetuses, your Marcus Aureliuses, they don't necessarily discuss Seneca because honestly he wasn't that great of a Stoic. But let he who is without sin cast the first stone, to borrow from the Christians. So take it with a grain of salt. But that if someone comes to you about this quote in your studies and they say, well, that's not true, then use this video as a way to explain what he meant. Show them the passage and on groundless fears. It's in any of the letters from a Stoic, I'm sure. So I hope everyone takes something away from this, and I hope to continue doing these little short videos on daily quotes. So thank you all for joining me, and have a wonderful day.